Hi friend, and welcome to the course, How to Be an Engineer Influencer. My name is Michael, and I'll be your course instructor today. And I'm so excited to help you on your entrepreneurship journey. Let's dive in. So I want to start off and talk about what an engineer influencer is to begin with. An engineer influencer is an entrepreneurial engineer who doesn't want to just depend on their W-2 job for income. But they take a specific route to entrepreneurship, namely, they focus on building an audience on social media first, and then they later on, when they reach a critical mass, they use that to kickstart their future startup or business. And this is already very different from our normal conception of entrepreneurship, because normally when we think of an entrepreneur, we think of a CEO of a venture-backed startup. But an engineer influencer focuses on a social media first approach. They build up their brand and then use that as a distribution channel to sell a product later on. So to visualize this, if you had imagined an income risk spectrum for engineers, on the left-hand side is the lowest risk option, which would be like a W-2 job. It's low risk, you're guaranteed paychecks, and it's great in the short term, but in the long term, if you ever lose that job, then you don't have any other income generating assets. But on the right-hand side will be the highest risk option, which would be like a VC scale startup. This is great if you can make it and then you're set for life. But then if you don't make it, then all those years of work, you might not have anything to show for it. So in this course, I'm advocating a middle option, which is what I call the engineer influencer approach, where you focus on building your credibility and building your brand. And then later on, you can use this to sell a product. And this is lower risk because what you're doing is you're actually building assets that are always valuable. If you fail at a startup, you can never really reuse the code, but your brand and all the digital products that you make are assets that you will always own and can always generate income for you in the future. So to give you an example of an engineer influencer, I want to talk about the best example of an engineer influencer I know, which is Rahul Pandey. So Rahul Pandey was a computer science major at Stanford. He was also an Android engineer at Pinterest and later an engineering manager and lead at Meta. And like you, he's an entrepreneurial engineer. In fact, we see on April 28th, for example, he announces on Twitter that he's launching his app called Taro, which is like a career mentorship app for mid-level engineers. And almost immediately, this app caught on fire. If we take a look, for example, on both the Apple App Store and the Google Play Store, 4.9 stars, hundreds of reviews, and it's just filled with very positive reviews like this one saying that they're everything that's good about the tech industry and they have a wealth of knowledge. Can't wait to see what they have in store. And just 2 months after launching Taro, they actually got into Y Combinator. For example, here on the left is actually his co-founder, Alex. So how did he just suddenly launch this on April and then get into Y Combinator almost immediately after? And it turns out that Rahul focused on being an engineer influencer first. And that's what allowed him to have the success that he enjoys now. So for example, we see on YouTube. YouTube is actually his biggest social media channel with over 61,000 subscribers on YouTube. We see the kind of content he makes. He has over almost 200 videos, and it's just a variety of topics on software engineering. Here we see learning Kotlin in 12 minutes, how to manage one-on-ones, performance improvement plans. So he's so generous with how he shares his knowledge, and he documents it all on YouTube. But YouTube is not his only channel. On LinkedIn, for example, he has 43,000 followers, and on Taro, he has 10,000 followers. So he's a pretty sizable following on all the different social media channels. In addition to his assets on social media, he's also invested a lot into community building. Here he has his own Slack group that he called the Tech Career Growth Group that later became Taro. We see that he has 12,000 community members here. He also has his own newsletter with Alex. This is just another community for engineers interested in leveling up in their career. He also has other assets too, like he has passive income through courses. Here, for example, at the top, we see at Stanford, he taught an Android workshop in fall 2021. And I actually noticed that he published another course in Android development at the same time in August 2021. So this means that he likely reused the content that he created for Stanford in his LinkedIn course, which is just a very smart reuse of content. And so if we see his path to Y Combinator, it was actually a series of stepping stones that involved being an engineer influencer first. So for example, he first built up his social media channels on YouTube, Twitter, and LinkedIn. He built a community of followers on his Slack group and in his Substack newsletter. He built passive income through his courses on Stanford and in LinkedIn courses. And through doing all this, he built a better working relationship with his future co-founder, Alex, and that's what let him be as successful as he is with Taro in Y Combinator. So I want you to imagine, for example, if he didn't have any of those assets and he tried going straight from a W-2 job to a Y Combinator app. It's very, very unlikely that he would have had the success that he had. But it was a series of stepping stones that allowed him to have share in the success that he has. And that's actually what this course is all about. It's helping you establish these stepping stones in the middle, building up the channels in social media, community building up all these assets such as the courses, and so that you have some passive income, and helping you network more and maybe help you even meet your future co-founder as well. By focusing on these aspects in this course, then later on, it will help you set up the success when you try to create a VC scale startup later on. But Rahul isn't actually an isolated incident, and so I want to show you just one more example of an engineering influencer with Mayuko. So Mayuko was an iOS engineer at Intuit and at Netflix, and like Rahul, she's an